I'm here today on the 30th of July 2020 at my home in Ballincolligan, County Cork in Ireland. I get a lot of requests on my Facebook page in relation to the issue of mandatory face masks. And these requests are coming from all over the world, besides Ireland, the UK, Canada, the USA, Australia, and people are asking me, how can this be imposed upon us without we having some say in the matter? So what I want to basically do is direct people to, after I finish with this video, which is just a preview, to a series of videos that I'm going to do explaining the law in regards to people's fundamental freedoms in relation to being forced to wear face coverings or face masks. And it will be in a module that will consist of 5 to 6 videos, one dealing with each jurisdiction with an introductory overview on the reasons why people do have rights to the integrity of their own person, and they do have the rights to say, no, I don't want to wear a mask. But people want to know, how can they say this basically under international law or the law of their own country or their own constitutions? And I'll cover some of what's known as the basic 4 freedoms that were developed after World War II, which brought about the Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which has been incorporated and adopted by many countries within the framework of their laws, recognition that people have a universal right to these things, which the 4 basic freedoms are speech, religion, fear, and want. At the moment, this face mask issue, mandatory wearing of it and going to jail if you don't, or being fined, or maybe something worse, comes in under the realm of speech and fear. So also what I will be dealing with in the video is how this can be considered to be discriminatory, that it's a medical ethics issue, and that there's different means of passing regulations to make you wear the face mask, whether this is an overreaching power of national legislation, or local legislation or local bylaws. So I look forward to explaining this to you and explain it to you about the abuse of rights doctrine, which I'll just briefly touch on here. It's what I call a knowingly wrongful assumption that the action being done by governments to pass mandatory face mask law or regulations is not a breach of basic personal fundamental human rights, which are inherently possessed by the individual person or a business entity, and is part of the principles known as abuse of rights doctrines. This occurs where the Constitution of the country, the jurisdiction, is seen to be giving immunity to protect primary legislation passed into law by national or regional parliaments or legislatures, which empowers local officials through secondary legislation to disregard personal rights. Those would be either governors, premiers, ministers of health, or their subordinates. They're enacting secondary rules and regulations which are overriding a lot of people's basic fundamental rights. Now, what happens, I think, is, and hopefully people will understand this when they go through the modules and see the legislation in their own country or jurisdiction, there is an absence of scrutiny through the normal channels of a democratic due process by members of the legislature in regard to the making of mandatory or blanket bylaw regulations to force the wearing of face masks and which is in itself subversive of national or state constitutions as the situation presents itself. What's happening is the voice of the people is not heard in relation to how they will be impacted in terms of medical health issues. This is a very important and probably the critical point that will come in the overview, and people will see it in each jurisdiction when I expose their own legislation. Furthermore, the human rights laws, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that have been ratified and adopted by most countries, must be given due consideration in recognition of personal rights of all persons who will be affected by the imposition of mandatory face mask measures. National or regional bills of rights, whether in state or provincial constitutions, give added protection and must not be ignored in regard to ensuring autonomy of the individual when regional, local, or city bylaws are drafted and implemented to enforce mandatory orders in regards to this issue of which I'll be speaking about now, face mask, face protection. I hope this will help to settle this issue and that these jurisdictions will not go on to bring about forced mandatory vaccinations, because this will be a disaster. Thank you.